So Pikes Peak has canceled all motorcycle racing for 2020 and forward, and that's what I want to talk about today. Alright guys, what's up? Paramoto here. How are you guys doing today? Today, I'm doing just fantastic. The organization that runs Pikes Peak has canceled all motorcycles for 2020 as they assess the impact of Pikes Peak without motorcycles. That doesn't mean that it's permanently canceled. That doesn't mean that you'll never see another motorcycle race Pikes Peak ever again, but you're not going to see it next year. Really, Pikes Peak's in danger of never having motorcycles again. This decision was made after the fatal wreck from Carlin Dunn, which RIP Carlin Dunn. You were a great rider. You were a great person. I hope you race in peace forever. And this guy is the opposite of racing. He is like slow racing. And that's really what's come down the pipeline from Pikes Peak, is that they're going to stop having any sort of motorcycle racing for the foreseeable future as they assess the dangers and everything like that. My personal opinion is that it's really fucking lame. I'll be totally honest with you. I don't like the thought of anybody getting hurt on a motorcycle, but we all understand that this is a dangerous activity. Every single one of us that goes out here and rides on two wheels understands that this is a very dangerous activity. There's more deaths per mile on motorcycles than there are in cars. And it's substantially higher deaths per mile traveled on a motorcycle versus a car. If you guys know about micromorts and your odds of fatalities and stuff like that, your risk of death goes up substantially when you ride a motorcycle. Holy fuck, God! Why are you going 10 under the speed limit? I think we've just gotten to the point where the society is becoming such a nanny society that nobody can do anything fun anymore. You know, nobody's allowed to do anything fun anymore and actually make decisions for themselves anymore, and that's just reverberated again with Pikes Peak deciding not to include motorcycles for the foreseeable future as they assess, you know, the changes to their viewership or whatever the fuck they're assessing, you know, without having motorcycles. And I just think it's bullshit. You know, just let people make the decision that they're gonna make. You know, you don't have to nanny everybody. You know, Carlin Dunn knew what he was doing was dangerous. He did. Every single one of us that watches Pikes Peak knows what they're doing is dangerous. Well, that's why people watch Pikes Peak. And you know, there's been 7 deaths associated with Pikes Peak, 4 of which have belonged to motorcycle racers. We all know what we're getting into. And honestly, 7 deaths for an established motorcycle race like Pikes Peak is nothing compared to the other motorcycle races that happen in the world. Pikes Peak has absolutely nothing on the TT. The Isle of Man TT happens every single year, right around springtime. They basically shut down the roads of a legitimate country roads of a town. People race city streets, and a lot of people die. So in 2016 alone, 5 people died doing the Isle of Man TT. And these guys are fucking legit. These guys are racers. I know it's a mostly amateur race. TT, you'll be going over 200 miles an hour with your head this far away from a hedgerow. It's really impressive. At the same point, it's extraordinarily dangerous. But people sign up to do it every single year, and nobody's going, hey, we should shut down the Isle of Man TT. No, it's got history and heritage. The Isle of Man TT has been going on since fucking 1910. It's been going on since 1910, and nobody's saying, hey, we should shut this down, you know? And then Pikes Peak's been going on since 1916, and all of a sudden it's a problem that people die occasionally. The TT, I believe, has had 207 riders die in total, 5 of which in 1 year in 2016. 207 people have died doing the TT, and nobody's like, hey, we should shut this shit down. You know, 5 people died in 1 year, and nobody's like, hey, we should shut this down. Well, everybody understands that the TT is dangerous. Every single person understands that races the TT, knows that the TT is extraordinarily dangerous. People die every single year, and, you know, people get seriously injured every single year, but you know what? They're just like, you know what? Everybody understands the risks. Let's just fucking do it, because we've been doing this forever, you know? And I think that the Isle of Man TT might become the last holdout of just anti-nanny state. Just do what you want as long as you don't hurt other people. And it's ridiculous to me. It's just ridiculous that we've gotten to that point as just a collective society that you can't do anything anymore because something might be dangerous. I just honestly think that's kind of sad that we have such a nanny society that you just can't make the decisions that you want to make anymore. Honestly, I think if you're willing to accept the consequences, you should be allowed to do damn near whatever you want, you know? But that's not who we are as a people anymore. I'm glad that the TT has held out long enough where it's like, hey, you know, yeah, this is extraordinarily dangerous, but we have this tradition that stretches all the way back to 1910. We shouldn't ruin tradition just because people died. They agreed to it. Let's just keep it going, because this shit is awesome. You know, there are riders out there that go and see it. I can't remember the one guy, he's from Canada, but he goes and sees the TT every year, and it's amazing. You can literally take your motorcycle and you can ride the TT yourself if you want, which is amazing. That's probably why a lot of people die, is because they let whoever the fuck they want, you know, go on it. But at the same point, they accept the risk, you know, that's on them. You know, more people have died in the premier class of motorcycling, MotoGP, than have died at Pikes Peak. I don't know if a lot of people know that. In the entirety of like GP sanctioned races, and some of the GP races actually intertwined with the TT, but there's been over 100 people that have died in MotoGP, and most of them occurred back when you know, the Isle of Man TT was all part of it. But at the same point, like, the more people died during MotoGP, like, come on. And nobody's calling for GP to like disband and quit and everything. I don't know, I just don't get it, guys. I just don't get it. I just think when it comes down to it, we need to just be allowed to make the decisions that we want to make. Like, seriously, nobody would doubt you and say, like, hey, motorcycles are dangerous. Like, everybody knows from, like, the time they start riding motorcycles that they know it's dangerous. They've been nagged by their parents. They've been, like, nagged and begged by their mom, like, hey, this is dangerous. We don't want you doing this and stuff like that. We all know what we're getting into. We all know it. And it's just like, I wish we were just allowed to make our decisions that we want to make, you know? Like, Carlin Dunn knew what he was doing. He was a professional motorcycle rider. He was probably one of the better riders in the world when you consider all the people that ride motorcycles and stuff. You know, when it comes down to it, Carlin Dunn was one of the absolute best riders in the world. He just break down from the beginner rider all the way to MotoGP. And, you know, he knew what he was doing. He just made a small error and saw a bump in the road and just, it shucked him off and he high-sided. Like, these are things that he couldn't control. Carlin Dunn's death, I think, is more on Pikes Peak as an organization for not finding that the road was hazardous, you know, just by being bumpy and uneven, you know, than it is on Carlin Dunn. His job was to rip that motorcycle as fast as he could up that fucking hill. And he did it, and he would have fucking won if he would have made it across the finish line. And I think in another world, he probably did. In heaven, Carlin Dunn probably did finish, and he ripped that fucking bike all the way to the fucking finish. He won everything for Ducati and everything like that. No, with the way that things are, it didn't happen that way. I mean, honestly, like, when you look at it though, gobs of people died doing the TT, gobs of people died doing MotoGP. 4 motorcycle riders have died doing the fucking Pikes Peak hill climb. That's not really that bad of numbers, to be honest with you. Did you really just stop people from doing what they love just because there's been a few accidents? I don't think so. Nobody's calling for motorcycles in general to stop being a thing. Motorcyclists die out here on the road every fucking day. And every fucking day I just pray that I'm not one of them. You know, even though I've wrecked twice and it's not fun, but at the same point, like, the shit is on me. I decide to do something dangerous. I accept the responsibilities and the consequences for that. When it comes down to it, you can get killed going down the road in a car just as easy as you can in a motorcycle, you know? And it's just, if you wreck on a motorcycle, you're more likely to be seriously injured. And that's all it really comes down to. You know, 3 people in vehicles in actual cars have died during the Pikes Peak hill climb, and they've been included every single year of the hill climb. What obviously is more dangerous, you know? Like, it's kind of a toss-up. You know, you got a bunch of adult men that just go up and they just try to fucking do something as badass and as fast as they possibly can. Bad things are gonna happen from time to time. You can't fault the riders, you can't really fault the organization. They all understand there's risk, and we all understand that there's consequences to fucking up. You know, to shut down an entire race, shut down an absolute entire race just because of a few accidents, just doesn't make any sense to me. Alright guys, I think this is where I'm going to leave you today. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing. Please make sure to hit the like button down below. We need some more likes, we need some more comments, and we need more watch minutes. Please make sure, hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. I'll see you guys on the next video. Deuces.